not, most of the stuff that you will get from me, including all of my notes that I use to teach this class, I do record all the videos. Make sure I'm recording. Perfect. I post all of those to D2L. I also have you guys turn in stuff there. You guys will get little notes from me. You can log into Zoom from there, all sorts of good fun stuff. But most importantly, over here under content, this is where all of your stuff will be. Currently, all of your exercises are on here, -1 and 2. I'm getting those written up as we speak. But most importantly, let's take a look at the syllabus. You can download that. You can open it up in there. If you're ever in here physically, as we have one today, you can go into your desktop folder system here and click up here in this little like typey part and do 2 backslashes, ETSUE3. And this is the file server location that I'm sure all of you are at least mildly aware of. You can also look here under Digim classes and my last name of Osteen. And then I have all the classes that I teach, plus all the past classes I've ever taught. I keep all of your stuff for eternity. So if you lose something on accident, you can come and cipher through here and play around with it. But everything that's also on D2L is in this folder. So if you would rather come in and physically get stuff or download stuff via D2L, that's up to you. But let's go ahead and look at this syllabus. So it should look something like this when you open it up. I am Laura Osteen. You can call me Laura, you can call me Miss Osteen. Some people call me Miss O or Mrs. O, depending on how long they've known me. It's pretty much so long as you're not like, hey, you, come here, I'll pretty much help you out. For those of you online, feel free to use your little emoticon wavy hand thing or use the chat. Also, if you have a question and I don't see it, please feel free to just yell out through your speaker. Or if someone in the class sees that someone's asked a question that I've missed, just feel free to be like, hey, someone had a question, and we'll take a look at it. My email is right here. You can email me whenever you like. I don't sleep often, so I should get your email up to bedtime. When that is, who knows? But I will be communicating to you with your ETSU email. I mostly send out emails via that one. So if you do use a different one, I recommend forwarding your email address to the one you use. Now, we are section 3. We meet on Tuesday, Thursdays at 11:15 to about 2:05-ish. We won't stay ever the entire time. I think I only have ever done that once, and that was because we got to talking. I try to leave at least the last hour-ish to an hour and a half of lab time for you guys. That way you have a little extra time to work either in here or at home on any homework that is in the class. I try to build in enough work days as well so that you should have enough in-class time to complete assignments if you don't have much time outside of class. So if you work or anything like that, you should have plenty of time in class to work on things as well. So what are we going to be doing and why are we going to be doing it? You guys are going to be making some really cool visual effects stuff. We're going to be taking a look at Photoshop and building some really cool image compositions. We're going to make some of those move. We're going to be looking at some video. We're going to be doing some motion design. We're going to be doing some tracking this semester. Pretty much we're just going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff. Why are we doing this? Well, if you're interested in film or visual effects at all, this gives you a nice good basis. You're going to be learning to work with each other-ish. Online, it's a little difficult, so we'll see. And other sorts of really fun stuff. I'm not going to read this verbatim for you. I hope you all know how to read, so you guys should be good. Definitely take a look at all of these, but you will be learning different hardware, different software. You've probably touched all of them at least a little bit, give or take. And we'll just be kind of delving into different concepts of visual effects and film. So what is required for this class? Those of you at home, a computer, I would assume, of some sort. You will need a flash drive regardless. I do highly recommend saving all of your stuff to a flash drive, especially if you're coming in physically. Never save to the computer here, especially on your personal like drive thing that they give you, like the Z drive or whatever that is. I myself have had stuff wiped out on the Z drive. I've known students get stuff wiped out right before finals. I would hate for that to happen to y'all, so always save to a USB. You will want a headset of some sort. It could be headphones, it could be a gaming headset, it could be whatever type of Bluetooth thing you'd want, but you do want one, whether it's just for listening to music or Netflix while you're working on stuff, or if you are going to be looking at audio stuff in class, your neighbor doesn't want to hear the same 5 seconds played over and over and over and over and over again. And then possibly you might want a mechanical pencil and eraser or a Sharpie. I've never known anyone to use the Sharpie, but it can come in handy if you need to write something down and you don't have your pencil. That being said, I do, like I said, provide all of my notes to you guys on D2L, so you shouldn't need to take any physical notes, but I do know some people take notes mentally better if they write it down. So if that's something that you would like, it's not fully required. You can also take notes on Google or in Word or whatever you like. Resources, these are just places for you if you're more interested in more tutorials or more in-depth stuff, visual effects or film related, things like that. What topics are we going to be talking about? Well, you're going to be doing some problem solving, some design thinking. You guys are going to be learning the hardware and software. Like I said, you're going to be making some different file formats. We're going to be talking about a bunch of those. You're going to be looking at the workflow and production pipeline of how to make different things. And then you're also going to be learning some visual composition and communication lingo, which is always fun. So the part that you guys are probably most interested is, how do I grade your stuff? That's my grading scale right there. I do round up by decimal points. So if you have a 0.5, like a 90.5, I do round that up to a 91. If you're like right at that C minus C range and you're like 0.5 away, I do tend to sometimes round up based off of your attendance, which we'll talk about later. Oh, sweet, Bryson. Now, that being said, you do have to have a grade of an actual C, not a C minus, to pass digital media courses. So definitely be keeping track of your grades. If something looks wrong, talk with me. More on that in a moment. Here's my major grading criteria. Everything that you turn into me kind of goes through this system. I do have all of my rubrics available for you guys to look at online on D2L. So if you want to know project by project base, what I'm looking for, I do have that for you. But this is roughly it. Each project, was it turned in on time and complete? Was it turned in but parts are missing? That sort of thing. Did you not turn it in at all? Technically, was it, comprehensive? Could I tell you knew the software? Could I tell you kind of knew it or not knew it, didn't do anything? How creative was it? Was it just unique, high detail, that sort of thing? And then professionalism is there as well. What projects y'all going to be doing? We will be doing a Photoshop composition. We will be animating a composition. We'll be doing some video editing and tracking. We'll be doing some video and audio capturing. You guys will be making some tiny little films. And we'll be doing a really fun motion graphic. Each one of the projects themselves are worth 100 points. If you miss one, your grade will suffer. That being said, my deadline is everything must be turned in at class time. On D2L, I think I have it all set up right now so that when you turn something in, or when you go to look at to turn something in, it does have like the due date and all that things. I do have it set to the end of class, if only because sometimes I know people have issues uploading under pressure. But I am expecting your stuff to be turned in before the lecture itself. I normally start critique days about 5-10-ish minutes late. That way to give you guys time, get everything pulled up on my end for that. I do not accept late work. If you've turned something in without telling me, you can turn it in, but your grade suffers 10 points or 1 letter grade each day it's late. That being said, if you turn it in on the day of and you don't like your grade, I do accept revisions. If you go on D2L, there's a folder specifically for revisions. So if you're like, man, I got like a D, I just didn't try on that project, I really wish I could fix it, you can. You just have to turn it in the day it's due. I have to be able to see that you've turned something in before the lecture itself, before that critique. As for participation in class, I do expect you guys to talk to me, whether that be physically here, yelling stuff out, in the chat, using your voice, that sort of thing. I want to hear your voices. I will also take a head nod if you have your video on. So if you have your video on and I can see you and I see you doing this, I will accept that as communication. You know, just turn stuff in, talk. I don't ask much. My attendance policy is you get 3 unexcused absences or 2 unexcused absences the whole semester. No questions asked before I start docking your grade. But I do accept excused absences. That excused absence could be like, hey, I think I have in here, I got a speeding ticket. You can tell me that you got pulled over. If you get a flat, send me an email, that sort of thing. But also if you just email me and be like, hey, I'm having like a day, I'll watch the video tonight and get stuff turned in. If you've told me before class, I'll count it. I recommend not abusing that because even if you're not turning stuff in, if you stop turning stuff in, your grade's going to suffer regardless. So definitely be attending class as much as possible. And then, like I said, my type 2 here is if something happens, like you go to the hospital, someone you know is in a wreck, and something happens, just the first opportunity you get, just let me know. Communication is key to you not failing. Policies, those of you at home, pay attention to class. That's all I can really do. But if you are in here, don't be physically or verbally abusive or disruptive. Don't be yelling and cursing in the halls. I know it's tempting to start swearing when your computer breaks or your render fails, but try to avoid that. Don't vape or smoke in here, obviously. You're at home, you're in your house, I hope. But if you're not, don't do that. The computers in here are for educational purposes only. Don't be playing games in here. Those of you at home, it's your computer, do what you want. But that being said, pay attention during class time. Don't be surfing Facebook, that sort of thing. Don't cheat. I have test assignments. I don't actually give you guys tests in here. I don't want to grade them. I also don't think they help you too much. We're all project-based in this class specifically. But don't cheat, don't copyright infringe as much as possible. We'll talk about copyright a little bit in a second. Do your own work. Don't copy off of others. Cell phones, pagers, if pagers still exist, just keep them on vibrate. Don't be on it during class time. That being said, mine's here. I will inevitably get a spam call during class. It happens. If you do get a phone call and you are physically in here, just you don't have to tell me or anything. You can just get up and walk out, do your conversation and come back. I won't yell at you about it. Just don't be disruptive. The big one, at least for in here, is if you're not enrolled in the class and they're not a Digim student, don't be in here. That being said, you will see other digital media students physically in here in the class. Online people, you don't have to worry about that. You're at home or a Starbucks, if Starbucks was open. Places like that. It's a little different. And then mute in Zoom, just if you're not speaking, but if you have a question, definitely unmute, ask your question. I just don't want to hear random dogs barking, as adorable as they are, or anything like that. It can be disruptive for others. Copyright. Told you we would talk about it in a second. Pretty much anything that you create, I will be showing at some point to other students. It's possible, but it does belong to you. It is your work. So you want to make sure that everything that is part of your work is from you. On D2L here, under table of contents, it's also under important links. There's this places to find non-copywritten images. We'll be doing a lot of image-based, sound-based work in here. Anytime you are turning in something, make sure you're trying to use as much non-copywritten stuff as possible. So if we click here, this is just a whole list of websites. I'll bring this up a couple of different times in class about where to find these. You just want to try to use things that aren't as copywritten as possible. And that goes for music as well. There's a lot of different places you can get uncopywritten music. YouTube's really good, but you want to make sure that you're using your own stuff. That way, if you did want to put it on like a demo reel or show it to people, you can be like, I made all of this, or I could sell this if someone offered money. If you use copywritten stuff, you can't sell it. It becomes illegal. Don't do that. If you do have any special accommodations, just let me know. I should be getting emails from disability services. If you do have any disabilities or anything like that, usually you guys would bring me pieces of paper, but it's all digital now. If I haven't received it, I don't know if they tell you or not. I've only received a handful for this semester. But if you do have one, feel free to just message me privately. You can send me an email, you can come talk to me, and we'll work something out. As for academic misconduct, don't plagiarize. This kind of falls in with copyright a bit. I have caught people trying to cheat in this class where they turned something in that wasn't theirs. Don't do that. If you think you'll get away with it, you won't. If I have an inkling that you've stolen something, I go to every other professor in here and I'm like, does this look familiar? And normally they're like, yeah. Don't do it. Be smart. I don't want to get you guys kicked out, suspended, or anything like that. And as for emergency procedures, those of you at home have your own, I hope, for your house. But for here, that's where you can find them all. If something happens, call 911, that sort of thing. And then don't worry about this. I'll be sending you guys a different one. You can fill that out if you want, but it's just asking a couple questions. Does anyone have questions about syllabus stuff? It's all pretty basic. You've probably heard it a million times already from last semester, possibly this morning. Anyone online got questions?
Nope.
Perfect.
Nothing here.
Cool, cool, cool.
Good to me.
So I do sometimes refer to you guys that are on Zoom as a Ouija board, because that's how it feels. Are you with me? Are you here? Give me a sign. So if I speak like that, just know I'm trying to get your attention. So we are going to dive in a little bit into Photoshop today. Is there anyone at home that doesn't have Adobe right now?
I don't.
I don't.
Okay. You don't need to really follow along too much with this one. I'm just going to be showing you where some buttons are, and we're going to be playing with some brush settings. I do know we have a way to offer you guys where you can use the Adobe stuff for free, like here in class. To my knowledge, it's broken. I'll update you guys hopefully by Monday on that. Hopefully it'll be ready by Thursday, but we'll see. But for now, just kind of watch along. Yes, so Clip Studio Paint does have similarities, so you should be good. If you're using something like a GIMP for right now, that should be good. If you're using Affinity, it's similar. The buttons are all just in different places for everything. And that's perfectly fine to use. So I'm going to open up Photoshop. And when you open, if you're here, you'll get something that looks like this. It's just like, hey, sign in. That's your ETSU email. If you're like me, it's like, are you human? I do this 18 times a day. Yes, Photopea also works. Photopea is like a free Photoshop alternative. You can definitely use Photopea. Yes. All right, so when you open this up, it should look something like this. You might have a whole bunch of images here that are projects that you've worked on in the past. But pretty much what we're going to be doing is just hitting create new. It's going to bring this little dude right here up. So this is all of your past project scales and size. So you can see I've got the default here. On my home computer, I have a whole bunch of other ones here of things that I use all the time. So if I needed something just real quick, I can just click that one and go. You can also have saved. So these are ones that you save and use most often. They kind of work similar to recent, except these are ones that you've specifically put here. Photo. Oh my goodness, computer, what's going on? So the photo sizes are decently sized photos. So you've got the default, you've got like a small landscape, a medium landscape, a larger landscape, a massive landscape, portrait size, that sort of thing. If you're going to be doing something for print, we've got letter, legal, tabloid, A4, B5, C5. For art and illustration, we've got all sorts of different things here. If you're going to be making something for the web, it is here. Something for mobile here. We're mostly going to be in this film and video section. The one that we're going to use most often is actually this first one right here, the HDV 1080 1920 by 1080 72. And all that means is over here in our details is that is our height, width, and resolution. Now, when we're working on stuff a little later, we will be changing this resolution here from 72 to 200. That makes it just a lot bigger. You've got more resolution per inch, that sort of thing. So instead of having less pixels to work with, you have more pixels to work with. You can change the orientation here. You know, you can give it a nice new name. I'm gonna call mine day one. We also have color modes. So RGB is really good for looking at things online because monitors have a more of an RGB format. CMYK is best for print. So if you're going to be printing something, you want to make sure your colors are in the CMYK. You can also make bitmaps, grayscales, and lab color. I don't know what lab color is really used for. I've only used it like once, and that was like eons ago. But it can do some really interesting things with alpha channels. But I'm going to leave mine on RGB for now. The 8-bit here, that's how many bits in your bitmap are there. 8 will give you a white background instead of having transparency. 16 will give you transparency. And 32 will allow you to have multiple different channels active all at the same time. 32 bits really handy if you're doing game design and making textures. So I'm going to leave mine at 8-bit for now, but most times we'll be using 16-bit. You can change your background to be white, black, a random color, transparent, custom color, whatever you like. This is all personal preference. The advanced options here is this color profile. So this is a printing kind of profile. When you go to print, that's a little bit more important when you start doing things for printing. You'll want to play with that. And then you have your aspect ratio, which is just different types of pixel radius. We won't worry about that one too much either. And I'm going to hit create. There we go. So this is just what Photoshop looks like. Like I said, we're not going to be going too much into doing things in Photoshop today, just kind of some basic, like where things are. Oh my goodness, Creative Cloud. What is going on, bud? It's just constantly popping up. Yeah. So let's take a look here. We've got our standard file. This is where we'll file, save, We can close things from here. We can open things from here. We can import things from here. All sorts of stuff from here. You can also automate and make scripts here. This can be really cool if you're going to be doing like the same function over and over and over again. You can write a script, hit a button, and just let it do its thing for you. And then you can also print. This is all pretty standard based off of every other different program you could use. Undo, this is where you can undo things, or edit, this is where you can undo things. You can also cut, paste, merge things. You can create fills and strokes for different objects. You can use different warp and transforms. We'll play with those on another day. But this is just where a whole bunch of other things are, including your preferences. Now we are going to be looking at these. And we'll go over these pretty much every day when we go over Photoshop stuff. So if you don't remember this, that's okay. Those of you at home, if you set this, it should stay. So I'm just going to go preferences in general. And like I said, for those of you that don't have Photoshop right now or have something that's similar, I will go over these again next class as well. So you don't have to worry about it if you don't have it right now. So general, this is just basic stuff. There's not really much in here that we change. Interface wise, this is where you can change your theme color to whichever one you like. You can change different colors. You can set different defaults, that sort of thing. Your workspace, this is where you can enable docking. So this is kind of like where these up here are tabs, like on Google Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer. You can also enable or disable large tabs, which just makes them thicker. Open things actually as the tabs themselves, or they can be floating windows, that sort of thing. This is all personal preference. You can change these however you like. Even if you did come in here, change these, make these more comfortable for you. The one that we're mostly going to be looking at is tools. We do want to make sure we're zooming with the scroll wheel. And I like to disable flick panning. That's all personal preference. It pretty much just allows you to do different things. If you're using a tablet, it allows you to actually use your pen a little bit better than using both pen and mouse. Just little things like that. You can also do zoom resizes windows or point to center. Those are all personal preference. Your history log is not actually your undo states. It's just the log itself. Your file handling, we won't really touch too much of this, but it's pretty much just how do you want things to be handled when you hit save, that sort of thing. Do you want to save in the background, save into layers or into folders, things like that. Export is very similar. Do you want PNGs to be transparent? Same with like GIFs, JPEGs, SGVs, or SVGs. Your performance, if stuff starts getting a little slow, you can always come here and take a look and see how much RAM Photoshop's using, your graphics processor. This is where your actual history save states, your undo is. The more of these save states you have, the slower your Photoshop will get. If you've got a beast of a computer or you're using one of the ones in here, you can crank that bad boy up as much as you want. And it shouldn't slow things down too much, but if your computer is a bit slower, I recommend leaving that closer to the 50. And then your scratch disks, if anything starts acting wonky or your Photoshop isn't running as well, you can always come in here and delete your scratch disks. So you can see like right here, it'll say how much free space you have. So on this computer, I've got quite a lot. Cursors, again, more personal preference. Do you want to have more standard paintbrushes, precise paintbrushes, normal, full size, that sort of thing? Do you want other cursors to be precise or standard? That's up to you guys. You also have your transparency here. So this is the grid. So when you erase your background, this is what would be seen underneath. You can change this to be light, medium, dark. I've known a couple people that have changed it to the color because it's easier to see. So that's all personal preference as well. If you're like, I really like this like blue one that's in here. I like seeing stuff on blue. You can change this to blue. Units and rulers. This one should pretty much stay constant. Sometimes you'll need to change those to different types. So you might need to change it to inches, centimeters, or percent at any given time. This is where that is. So those rulers show up here. So if I come down here, you'll see I have rulers here. Mine's currently set to pixels. If I'm like, no, I really want to see that in inches, I can change that to inches. If I'm like, no, I want millimeters, that sort of thing. You can change those right here. The next are guides and slices. The guides are these little blue lines that I have here. So I can change those to be any color I want. This is all personal preference as well. If you're like, I just kind of want to see them, but I don't want them to be like too visible, you can put them as like light gray. These are really good to know for lining up things, making sure things are staying above certain locations and things like that. And you can change all sorts of different things in here to make them personal for you. I've seen people do absolutely weird things where they change it to like red, green, yellow, and whatnot, but it's what they want. I like to stick with the blue just because I like blue. Plugins, if you've got any plugins for your Photoshop, this is where you can enable or disable them. Your type, this is where it's asking you about different text types that you could possibly use, what happens if things, you've got font that's missing, that sort of thing. Most of this stuff is pretty good, nice and basic. And then the 3D, if you're using the 3D overlay or anything like that inside of Photoshop, this is the stuff all to do with that. And then tech previews, I don't actually know fully what this is doing, although I do know the enable content aware tracing is real neat. But it does sometimes slow your Photoshop down. But if you do have a nice, good computer, you shouldn't have any worries. So the most takeaway, at least for your preferences, is just in the tools here. You want zoom with scroll wheel and turn off flick panning. And that's basically most of the stuff we're going to work on today. We have our layers here. This is just the individual layers. You can create a new layer by going layer new. You can also come over here and in this little layers tab down here, there's a little button that's like a piece of, it used to be a piece of paper with the little tab folded up, but now it's a box with a plus sign in it. I don't like it. But you can click that and it'll create a new layer. So now we have a nice new layer here. You can delete layers by clicking on it and hitting the little trash can. It'll ask, are you sure? You can tell it, yeah. Or you can also click on the layer and hit the delete key. That'll also delete it. You won't have to tell it yes. But you can do all sorts of interesting things in here. If for some reason you can't create a layer mask, which we'll talk about later, you can create one here. You can make smart objects. You can hide layers, all sorts of fun and interesting things that you can do with your layers here. The type, this is just different parts of that type, things that have to do with your font, extruding, that sort of thing. Your selection, if anything ever happens, I recommend checking here or doing Control-D on the keyboard to deselect. Sometimes you'll be working with a selection tool and it'll just make it so you can't click anything. Normally it's this little deselect thing here. Something has been selected unwillingly. But this is where all of your select things are. You can make things subjects, you can get color ranges, that sort of thing, all in here. Your filters, these are all the fun filters that you can find in here. So you've got different blurs, liquefies, your vanishing point, just all sorts of fun tools in here that you can look at. The 3D, this is a really cool way to make some 3D meshes from image-ish. You can make panoramas. It's not actual full 3D, but it gives the appearance of some 3D stuff. This is a really good way to make bump maps, normal maps, stuff like that in texturing. Just some fun stuff, interesting 3D aspects that Photoshop has got. View, this is just how you can view different things inside of your Photoshop. So I turned on my rulers here. You can turn your snap off and on. If you get the pixel grid, so like if I zoom in really far and little pixels start popping up, you can turn that off here by turning off the extras. You can see here, there's the grid, smart guides, things like that. So if I did want to turn these off, I could go here and turn off extras and those will disappear. Plugins, again, this is where you can manage your plugins. And then window is where all of your different window types and tools are located. So currently we have color, layers, properties, options, and tools are enabled. Our tools are all of these here. Our color is obviously the color swatch over on the top right. And then we have our properties and our layers underneath those. But you can also turn on things like brushes and brush settings, which is the only thing we're really going to play with today. But there are other things in here that you can toggle off and on that we will toggle off and on throughout the semester. So our tools, we've got our move tool. It's V. This is a pretty basic tool that's pretty universal across all Adobe products. We've got our little selection tools. We've got our lassos, and just other tools in here that we can play with, like crop and paintbrush. So we're going to play with the paintbrush just a little bit. It's pretty standard. Every paint tool that you've ever encountered has paintbrush. The only thing that makes Photoshop just a little bit different is its brush settings. So you can change the hardness to be super soft or super hard. You can get rid of spacing or have more spacing. So you can make dotted lines. You can get rid of it fully so that you have a nice smooth circle. We also have the shape dynamics itself. If you are using one of the Cintiqs we have in one of the other labs, or if you have a tablet at home, you can use that to control your size, the diameter, the angle, and all sorts of things. We can have a scatter. So we can have our paintbrush scattered a bit, more large. We can have it so that the count is smaller in some point, larger in others. We can also turn on a texture. So it would paint with the texture of your choice. You can have two brushes painting at the same time, or the appearance of two brushes painting at the same time. And then you can have different color. So for instance, let's say my color is red. You can have your hue. For every time you paint, it'll be a slightly different color, which is pretty fun. You can have the saturation change. So it'll be a slightly saturated or less saturated color every time you paint. You can also change your brightness. So things will be not only slightly hue and saturated changed, but you might have a little bit of brightness change in there. And then you can also turn on apply per tip as well. So every individual brush point will be a slightly different color. It's just fun and neat. You can also transfer your brush to different things. You can change how much noise is in your brush, whether it builds up on itself, is there smoothing, that sort of thing. There's all sorts of really cool things you can do inside of the Photoshop brushes in here. There are also defaults that you can play with. You can also download brushes from the internet for free. There's a lot of different places online that you can go to get brushes. So if you're looking for a specific type of look, if you're doing like a digital paint or something, you can pretty much find any brush for what you're looking for. But that being said, we also need to be able to erase. So brush is B on the keyboard. Eraser is E on the keyboard. So I can erase here. Now that's a bit tedious because my brush is so small. We can change the brush size up here, be larger or smaller. But we can also do that little brackets over by the backspace to make them larger or smaller, to make things easier to erase. So that's kind of like counter to the inner sign. And then we also have our gradient. So we can make a gradient here. It takes your first color, which is here, and your background color, which is this one. You just click and drag inside of your timeline or composition to make your gradient. There's also all sorts of different types in here that are defaults that you can use. They're just really fun to play around with. There's a couple of different instances where we can use gradients for different things. But most of all, they're just fun to play with, especially for today. And then we have, if we press and hold inside of here on our gradient tool, There is the paint bucket, which you just click and fills the entire composition based off of pixel data to go all the way across. So if I had a different color in here, it would realize the pixel different color and wouldn't fill it. You can change your colors back to default with this little dude right here. And then you can swap those with this little arrow right here, which is also X on the keyboard. So if you're painting with two different colors and you want to be able to paint between them really quickly, you can just hit X and they'll swap. It's nice to know. I'll bring that up a couple of times throughout the next couple lessons too. So like I said, if you don't have Photoshop right now, you don't have to remember all this stuff. There is no test. This is just letting you know where buttons are. Okay. Does anyone have questions just about some like basic Photoshop stuff, just like the brushes or anything like that?
Miss Austin,
Yeah.
I might get kicked out. I'll try to come back.
Okay.
Just said my connection is unstable.
Okay.
Okay.
You're good. You're good. Does anyone have questions about the Photoshop stuff? Perfect. Yeah, so pretty much that's all I really have for today too. I just want to kind of like get you guys in the Photoshop, seeing what the buttons are. If you want to play around in it, definitely feel free to. We'll be looking at a lot more of these buttons in depth on Thursday, right? Today is Tuesday. I already thought today was Monday, so we should be good. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to get you guys into Photoshop, see the buttons, make sure that you know where the layer button is. You know that there's a brush, just like every other paint tool you've ever probably used. So if there's no questions.
I have a quick question.
Quick question. Yes.
So you said that there was an alternative to Photoshop that we could use. Was it Photo P? Is that what you called it?
Yes, Photo P.
Okay. Are there any other like ones you would recommend, or is it just that one?
So Photo P is the best free version because it's pretty much Photoshop, whatnot. It looks really similar. It's got most of the same buttons. Affinity Photo, an Affinity Designer. They're both just a $50 one-time payment product. It's similar. It's set up a lot different, but it's got pretty much all the same tools. It's the biggest competitor-ish right now to Photoshop. Clip Studio Paint's pretty good. You can use Picarto, I know is one that people have used. At least for this first like day or two, those should be okay. But I do recommend the Photoshop for when we start getting a bit more into photo editing, Thursday and Tuesday.
Okay.
That being said, we should have a way for you guys to use Photoshop and stuff for freezies soon. When that happens, you guys will get an email from me. I'll post it on D2L. We have a way for you guys to remote in on our computers and use like a virtual computer to use it. And right now it's just broken. So.
All right. Cool beans. Thank you.
No problem. A question about copyright. Fair use? Fair use is fair use. So yeah, fair use is definitely something you can do. You just don't want to use something that's actually like copywritten, things like that.
Have a good day.
You guys too. You guys are free to go. I will be around for a little bit in case you have other questions. Just class regarded in general, questions about syllabus or anything like that. And that's all. Y'all are free to go.
Thank you.
How do you log out? Control-Alt-Delete. And then it should pop up like log in, like the blue screen, and then like log out and all that stuff. Oh, awesome. It worked for you. I know some people have had success with it. Definitely try it. If it doesn't work, let me know. Yeah, it's been kind of hit and miss just logging in. Sometimes it lets you, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, it would be free with your ETSU if it'll let you do it. Yeah, it's like I said, it's hit and miss. Sometimes it works for people, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I'll definitely be letting you guys know about the way that we're trying to get it set up for you.
So wait, so we can actually get Adobe? Is that like Adobe Suite or just Photoshop for free with that?
It should be the Adobe Suite. Definitely try logging in like you would like logging into a computer here or like your email.
Okay.
It'll either tell you yes, you can download the software, or it'll be like no.
Because I know like the suite is like $20 if you're
Yeah.
a student.
Yeah.
Which I am a poor college student, so I'd prefer free.
Yeah, free is always best.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it works with some people. It doesn't work with others. It worked for some of the faculty here. It didn't work for me. I had to go in and we had to jump through some hurdles.
Right.
But yeah, give it a shot. At most, if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, let me know. Send me an email. I will be sending you guys info on like how to use it, still for free.
Do you
it's
know
just
if there's any like watermark? Like I know with Maya, the student version of Maya, like it has a watermark on Arnold if you're a student.
Mhm.
Is that like in any of the Adobe stuff, or do you know?
No, not to my knowledge. I haven't come across any watermarks. The only watermark that you might encounter is if you're using a plugin and you don't have the plugin stuff for it. But there's really not many times, at least in this class, that you would encounter that. I'll show you a couple later in the semester in Premiere and After Effects, where there's a plugin that we offer here on campus, but you guys wouldn't have access to at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did just try logging into Adobe with my school account.
Yes.
And like it did log into a account, even though I didn't put in my password. It just went through with it.
Mhm.
But the only options I have are free trial or buy now. So
Yeah.
it might work for you, Joshua, but it
Yeah.
didn't go through for me.
Yeah, it's very hit or miss. Definitely try it, and if it works, great. But if not, like I said, I will be putting out like how to use the versions we have here.
Yeah, I got you.
Using
All
that
right, thanks.
virtual.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Also, one last thing, and I'm gonna head out. Super excited. I've never used Photoshop ever in my life.
Same.
I'm an old man. I'm 26, so we'll see how this works.
Oh, you youngin.
I'm only a slightly younger old man at 23.
No, you guys are good.
Right.
That's what this class is for, is to get you used to stuff. So if you do have questions at any point, like I've gone too fast, or you're like wait, just stop me. I love answering questions. So
Right.
Okay.
yeah, and I'll take this pretty slow. We'll go back over pretty much everything we've done throughout the next week or two in Photoshop. So
All righty.
you guys
Have a good
should be
one.
good. You
Thank
too.
you.
I must be the baby. I'm just now turning 20 in April.
No, you're good. You are good.
Well, you have a good day.
You too. I'll see you around.
Okay.
See you on Thursday.
I'll probably come in this time. I was just lazy today.
No, you're good. We've got plenty of space. We have, I think, just enough people in the class that were like 2 over, so pretty much everyone could show up, but like 2 people.
Oh, okay.
And we'd be okay and still spaced out. So yeah, definitely come in if you want.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you.